And for those who enjoy this channel and would love to support us financially, please feel free to hit that donate link. We'd greatly appreciate it. God bless.
Hey, what's up, guys? So I was doing some research, watching some YouTube videos, and I actually got to talking with a couple atheists online. And I have some questions for the atheists out there, and also some challenges toward the end of this video that I'm gonna throw out for evolutionists. But I really wanted to address some questions to atheists, because, I mean, I stumbled upon a couple YouTube channel names. One was Lucifer Almighty. One was this guy, Snake Was Right. And Aaron Ra, I really hate to even give him the attention, because I don't get what the big deal about Aaron Ra is. He never really seems to produce any good content or any solid arguments. He seems to more just like yell and scream and cuss at people and curse the Bible, really. And so my question to you guys is, including Aaron Ra, is why are you guys so focused on Christianity? I mean, if you really don't believe it, I was talking to some atheists, and then I saw the Aaron Ra video of him screaming and carrying on about the Bible, and then I saw this meme that says, "Atheists, the only people dedicated to fighting what they swear doesn't exist." And it really just hit me, and I was feeling called and led to make this video. I'm not coming at you guys. I truly am not. I'm not trying to start some online debate or fight or something. I truly do care for you guys, and I want you to be honest with yourselves and ask yourself this question. Why are you so focused on Christianity? If you are truly atheists, you truly do not believe God exists, then why dedicate your whole lives, your whole YouTube channel, to fighting Christianity? Lucifer Almighty, Snake Was Right. And then Aaron Ra's been trying to prove Christianity wrong for over a decade on YouTube. And so my question is, why are you guys so worried about it? Why are you? And they're gonna say, well, we just don't want people blindly following religion or whatever. But that's not what us Christians do. We don't blindly follow religion. Let's take a look at a quote from Richard Dawkins, right? He says, "We don't need evidence for evolution. We know it to be true." Okay, you're talking about blind faith for me. We don't need evidence for evolution. We know it to be true. Guys, the Bible talks about people falling for the lie. I'm sorry. I think it's 2 Timothy that talks about that. I'm sorry, guys. I think you have fallen for the lie. I'm not even joking. And so, like, let's look at what the Bible says, right? About evidence and blind faith and things like that. In 1 Thessalonians 5:21, the Apostle Paul is talking, and he says, "Prove all things. Prove all things. Hold fast that which is good." So the Bible tells you to go out and, make sure, And also, in Hebrews chapter 11, it says, verse 1, "Now faith is the substance of things hoped for, and the evidence of things not seen." Faith is the substance of things hoped for, and the evidence of things not seen. That's not blind faith. Read the Bible. It tells you, go get evidence. And then verse 3 says, "It's through faith we understand that the worlds were formed by the word of God." So, that's pretty much the basis of creation science right there. It tells you to go out and get evidence, and then it says by faith or by evidence of things unseen is how we know that the worlds were formed by the word of God. And so that's our standpoint. You can't tell me we have blind faith when your standpoint is Richard Dawkins saying we don't need evidence for evolution. We know it to be true. And another question I have for atheists, a lot of atheists say that the Bible or Christianity was created to control people, etc. Well, hang on, I have it written down here, my exact question. If the Bible is a control tool, why is it not propagated by mass media? In fact, Christianity is ridiculed on in media at all hours of the day. Every channel on the TV, they're making fun of who? Jesus Christ, not Buddha, not Muhammad, not one of the Hindu weirdo gods with 50 arms, Shiva or whatever. No, they're making fun of Jesus Christ. That should tell you something. That when you stub your toe, what do you say? Oh, Jesus Christ! Why are you doing that? I think it's subconsciously a spiritual battle. And another half to that question is, why is Christianity always one of the first things to be banned by oppressive government? I mean, look at what's happening in China right now. Why is it Christianity that's ridiculed and attacked? Anyways, I'm trying not to go on and on and on and make this video longer than it needs to be. But so I hope I presented some solid questions for you atheists to ask yourself. And if you want to give me your feedback, feel free, leave a comment. But really, I'm hoping to compel you guys to look into this internally. And then I have a couple challenges for evolutionists, okay? Because I'm sick of talking about macroevolution that's been proven false time and time again. I really am kind of sick of that topic. So let's go into some other parts of the evolution theory, right? Abiogenesis. I want to hear a legitimate explanation for how this even could have happened. Not, you don't even have to prove it. I want a legitimate hypothesis on how this could have happened. Because I've never, ever heard a reasonable explanation other than basically magic. And that's obviously ridiculous. Even, once again, I hate to even give him the attention, but Aaron Ra, I watched his abiogenesis video, and it was nonsense. Magic, supernatural, the stuff that you guys say does not happen. So that's challenge number one. Challenge number two is I want a reasonable explanation for the origin of planets and stars. And I don't want the stupid nebular hypothesis that says all sorts of crazy stuff about particles colliding into each other to expand into a planet. No, that's nonsense, and we all know it. They've been trying to prove that since the 70s, and everything has, all the experiments and tests have shown that cannot happen. So, and then another question would be, if evolution is true, then why didn't the millions of years of eating raw meat, why didn't that give us predator teeth? Or carnivore teeth, predator teeth? That simply doesn't make sense either. So, guys, there truly is a lot of problems with this evolution theory. Another question would be, and I just thought of this one right off the top of my head. I only had 3 written down, but if we came from monkeys and we evolved, we're supposed to be getting better and better. Why are we not immune to all the diseases that primates are immune to? They almost are not even affected by disease. They're can't think of the word I'm trying to think of. But we're less strong, less fast. Our skin is less thick. We're not immune to things as well as they are. Where did all these traits go? All these beneficial traits that natural selection should have kept in our gene pool. Where did they all go? We gave up all those traits for survival in order to speak. I don't know. It doesn't make sense to me. So there's some challenges for the evolutionists. And I really made this video, though, to reach out to atheists that are kidding themselves, fooling themselves, literally just kidding yourselves. I mean, I don't even know how else to put it. And once again, I'm not coming at you guys. I'm not being hateful towards you guys or anything else. I truly care about you guys, and I want you to be honest with yourselves and think about these questions that I presented. So thanks for watching, guys. Share this with any atheists you know, and hopefully I'm praying that the Lord speaks through this video and really convicts them and makes their hearts to be softened toward the idea and really be honest with themselves instead of just kind of hiding behind atheism. So anyways, sorry, I'm just rambling on at this point. Thanks for watching, guys. God bless. Also, some challenges toward the end of this video that I'm going to throw out for evolutionists.
Questions, you say, for atheists. Okay, Sparky, hit me. Let's do this. Greetings, fellow space travelers. BionicDance here. When I first started on YouTube, while dinosaurs still ruled the Earth, one thing that was very common were questions for atheist videos. I miss those. Of course, they weren't real questions. The ones asking them, usually Christians, didn't really want to know anything. They were gotcha questions, or what they thought were gotcha questions, designed as attempts to refute atheism, or at least to make it look ridiculous. This guy isn't much different, and he even says that these are rhetorical questions designed to make us think, so he probably doesn't care what the answers are. But I'm gonna answer them anyway. Like I said, I miss questions for atheist videos.
I really wanted to address some questions to atheists because, I mean, I stumbled upon a couple YouTube channel names. One was Lucifer Almighty. One was this guy Snake Was Right. And Aaron Ra.
The only one of those I've ever heard of is Aaron Ra. He's been around for at least as long as I have. But you should have stumbled across my channel, and I find I'm quite put out that you haven't. BionicDance don't get no love.
And so my question to you guys is, including Aaron Ra, is why are you guys so focused on Christianity?
I would think it'd be obvious. It's 'cause you guys are most of what we see. We live in the English-speaking first world, where Christianity has dominated for at least centuries, if not millennia. You guys are the ones who actually affect our lives. That's why. That should have been a well-duh answer to a question that doesn't even need to be asked.
I saw this meme that says, atheists, the only people dedicated to fighting what they swear doesn't exist.
If religious people could share and play nicely with the other kids, I wouldn't care what paranormal beliefs they have.
I truly do care for you guys, and I want you to be honest with yourselves and ask yourself this question.
And I want you to think about my answers, but I don't expect it.
If you are truly atheists, you truly do not believe God exists, then why dedicate your whole lives, your whole YouTube channel, to fighting Christianity.
And this is religious thinking that really needs to go away. Atheism isn't like a religion. It's not something to which I have to dedicate my life the way religions are. But I notice a tendency on the part of theists to be unable to not look at atheism through the lens of their own experience. Like I said, arguing against religion is, for me, self-defense against the misbehavior of theists. They're making nuisances of themselves and in my direction. Mind your own damn business, and I'll shut up.
And so my question is, why are you guys so worried about it? Why are you? And they're gonna say, well, we just don't want people blindly following religion.
You have to admit that's a pretty good reason.
But that's not what us Christians do. We don't blindly follow religion.
Yeah, you do. It's called faith, buddy.
Let's take a look at a quote from Richard Dawkins, right? He says, "We don't need evidence for evolution. We know it to be true."
First of all, citation needed. I can't find that quote anywhere. Second, who cares what Richard Dawkins says? He's not an atheist high priest or anything. This is just another example of that Christian thinking that needs to go away. Atheism isn't like a religion with authorities who dictate atheist dogma. I like a lot of what Dawkins says, like this.
You're watching BionicDance. Don't run on automatic, instead, please think.
But he doesn't speak for atheism or atheists. And evolution isn't part of atheism either. Dawkins may be an atheist and a proponent of evolution, but that doesn't make the two related. Atheism isn't like a religion, and evolution isn't atheist dogma. Seriously, you need to break out of this mold, look outside your bubble, and stop trying to compare atheism to a religion. Because if you don't, you'll never understand it.
Guys, the Bible talks about people falling for the lie. I'm sorry. I think it's 2 Timothy that talks about that. I'm sorry, guys. I think you have fallen for the lie. I'm not even joking.
So the book you agree with says that anything it doesn't agree with is a lie, and you don't see the problem with that, or how believing that isn't blind faith. Okay.
That's not blind faith. Read the Bible. It tells you. Go get evidence.
Well, let's suppose it does tell you to go get evidence. Guess what? It ain't there. We have no evidence that God exists. None that we can put to the test anyway. And yet, you continue to believe it, then claim it's not blind faith. And somehow you don't see the problem with that.
And then verse 3 says, it's through faith we understand that the worlds were formed by the word of God. So, that's pretty much the basis of creation science right there. It tells you to go out and get evidence, and then it says by faith or by evidence of things unseen is how we know that the worlds were formed by the word of God.
So you go looking for evidence, and you don't find any because it's unseen, and that's how you end up knowing dick, not a bleeping censored thing. Both diddly and squat. If you have evidence and know something, you don't need faith. That's the whole point.
And so that's our standpoint. You can't tell me we have blind faith when your standpoint is Richard Dawkins saying we don't need evidence for evolution. We know it to be true.
Which is not my standpoint. That's the standpoint of Richard Dawkins. Again, he doesn't speak for all atheists. He's not an atheist pope, and you need to stop thinking of him that way. If he says something stupid, others are going to call him out on it. Not saying he did, I'm just saying I would. Because most atheists are also skeptical, rational thinkers who don't accept things just because people say them, no matter who they are.
And another question I have for atheists, a lot of atheists say that the Bible or Christianity was created to control people, etc. If the Bible is a control tool, why is it not propagated by mass media?
The reason? Money. Mass media has advertising dollars to think of, and they can't go alienating huge swaths of the country if they want that revenue. Advocating just for Christianity is gonna do that. And funny thing, the Bible was created as a control tool long before mass media existed. The first television sets came out in 1927, and radio was invented in 1895. And I'm reliably informed that the Bible existed just a smidge before then.
In fact, Christianity is ridiculed on in media at all hours of the day. You know, every channel on the TV, they're making fun of who? Jesus Christ.
Examples?
That when you stub your toe, what do you say? Oh, Jesus Christ! Why are you doing that?
It's because it's been long ingrained in the culture, that's why. I don't know how it began, but a reliable guess is that it was some sort of Jesus heal my wounds thing. Of course, some of us will just shout fuck or shit without referencing religion in any way. Just saying.
And another half to that question is, why is Christianity always one of the first things to be banned by oppressive government?
Well, if religion is a way to control people, and a government wants all that control for itself instead, well, you do the math.
Anyways, I'm trying not to go on and on and on and make this video longer than it needs to be.
Too late.
But, so I hope I presented some solid questions for you atheists to ask yourself. And if you want to give me your feedback, feel free, leave a comment.
When I leave video responses like this one, rarely do I get any kind of response to it whatsoever, which is why I suspect that what I say will be like the rather disappointing battle between the hindquarters of a duck and a small quantity of moisture. So I issue a direct challenge to this fellow. Make a video response to my response and let's get a dialogue going.
But really, I'm hoping to compel you guys to look into this, internally.
You should know that we have. You're not saying anything particularly new to us. I mean, if we're outspoken atheists at all, do you really think we reach that state in a vacuum without considering these questions and others just like them? 'Cause that's just silly.
And then I have a couple challenges for evolutionists, because I'm sick of talking about macroevolution that's been proven false time and time again.
No, it hasn't. But here's the thing. I'm not a biologist, so I can't answer a lot of this in anything more than a really general fashion. Instead, I'd like to address how you're even thinking about this subject in the first place. Your paradigm of thought, your approach.
Abiogenesis. I want to hear a legitimate explanation for how this even could have happened. You know, you don't even have to prove it. I want a legitimate hypothesis on how this could have happened, because I've never ever heard a reasonable explanation.
And that's the problem here. Reasonable by what standard? I suspect that what you'd consider reasonable and what someone considering this topic from a purely secular perspective would call reasonable are not the same thing. I suspect that you could be given the most reasonable explanation ever, perhaps even complete with proof based on solid data, and you'd reject it because you don't much care for it on religious grounds. Also, well, there's this. We've kind of demonstrated abiogenesis in the laboratory. So, you know, just saying.
Because I've never, ever heard a reasonable explanation other than basically magic. And that's obviously ridiculous.
A Christian saying that magic is ridiculous is like a Star Trek fan claiming that televisions don't exist. Also, it's only June and my annual budget for irony meters is already almost exhausted, so please donate on Patreon.
If we came from monkeys and we evolved, we're supposed to be getting better and better.
We don't get better and better. That's not what evolution does. Evolution is change, not necessarily improvement. Natural selection means that species can change in order to keep reproducing to survive, to perpetuate the species, and not all evolution is beneficial. That's why a species might go extinct instead of surviving, because they weren't fit enough to reproduce in the environment where they lived. It's survival of the fittest, not survival of the more awesome.
I want a reasonable explanation, that simply doesn't make sense either. I don't know. It doesn't make sense to me.
Maybe religion itself is the reason that you don't get it, that you're shying away from any explanations that might challenge your Christian presuppositions. Or maybe you just haven't done your homework. But either way, these explanations have a solid empirical basis and are reliable regardless of your understanding.
Hopefully, I'm praying that the Lord speaks through this video and really be honest with themselves instead of just kind of hiding behind atheism.
Back at you. How soft is your heart to the possibility that religion is a steaming pantload, I wonder? Can you stop hiding behind faith? Or is this a one-way street to you? Just askin'.
Some solid questions for you atheists to ask yourself. And if you want to give me your feedback, feel free, leave a comment.
When I leave video responses like this one, rarely do I get any kind of response to it whatsoever, which is why I suspect that what I say will be like the rather disappointing battle between the hindquarters of a duck and a small quantity of moisture. So I issue a direct challenge to this fellow. Make a video response to my response and let's get a dialogue going.
Hey, so this is my response to BionicDance. Sorry it took me a while to get back. I had a pretty crazy week, and then I got sick. I was still pretty sick, actually. I got a good bit of a cough. So hopefully I'm clear enough while speaking right now. I know I'm probably a little nasally at the very least. But I didn't want to let this go any longer than it had. I wanted to go ahead and get back to you. So let's go ahead and start out here. The first thing I want to say to you, BionicDance, is I guessed exactly what your video was going to be. I even told you in the comments section what your video was going to be. It's you editing me to misrepresent what I was saying. This happened many times. And then you attempting to be humorous in between the clips of me speaking. And I mean, I knew exactly what it was going to be. I truly did. I said that to you in the comments section. You know, and a good example of you trying to be humorous is, you know, in the first 30 seconds you say,
Okay, Sparky, hit me.
as if we're, you know, fist fighting or something. I'm trying, you know, I'm trying to have a decent conversation with you guys. It seems nearly impossible to have a decent scientific philosophical conversation with atheists when they find out that I'm a Christian. You know, you guys lose your cool for some reason, and it's rather disappointing, really. Yeah, so this was supposed to be a learning experience for everybody. You know, I would learn something about your guys' viewpoints, and maybe you guys could learn something about my viewpoints, but you've turned it into more of, I don't know, some sort of battle. You seem to want to make it. That's really not what I was trying to get at, as I stated in my original video, but you clearly do miss this, as you said.
Questions for atheist videos. I miss those.
So you're welcome. So I guess the first thing I'm gonna get into is you said I'm making your life worse with my video, I guess. And you're saying you have to defend yourself against theists. Number one, I know you can't be talking about me. You can't be, you know, defending yourself against theists because you had to go out and look for my video and click on my video and choose to watch my video and then choose to make a response to it. You said I'm forcing it down your throat. How am I shoving anything down your throat? I made a video and put it online. You decided to watch it. So maybe you're talking about when you say you need to defend yourselves against theists, maybe you're talking about the occasional Jehovah's Witness that comes once a year to your door, or the occasional street preacher that you have to, God forbid, you have to walk past somebody that asks you, "Do you know Jesus?" You know, you act like we're causing some sort of pain or misery to you. We're trying to make sure you don't miss out on a great gift here. But one thing I would like to point out is it's actually quite the opposite. As I stated in my original video, Christians are constantly under attack, constantly persecuted, as I started to state in my original video. And some examples of that: BBC News says that Christianity is the most persecuted religion in the world, and it's reaching near genocide levels, according to the international definition of genocide by the UN. Newsweek says the same thing. Christianity is approaching genocide levels of persecution. CNS says 80% of persecuted religious believers are Christians. The Foreign Secretary Jeremy Hunt says governments have been asleep over the persecution of Christians. Let's see, I could keep going. I'm going to skip a couple here that I've written down. HuffPost says Christianity is the most persecuted religion in the world. CBN says most persecuted religion in the world. Open Doors USA says it's the most persecuted. And they also say every month on average 105 churches are burned or attacked. Every month 219 Christians are detained, arrested, or sentenced and imprisoned. And every month 345 Christians are killed for their faith, statistically. There's some news sources stating the total outlook of things in the whole world. If you want to get more on a personal level, more what happens here in America, I assume you're from America. That's what you implied in your video anyways. I can point out the army of atheists that attacked my last video, near 500 of them. But I know there was a good couple hundred comments, all of which were angry atheists that were attacking my video. None of them actually had rebuttals. All of you were just, well, I shouldn't say all because I didn't look at all comments, but most of the comments that I saw were just personally attacking me, calling me an idiot and things like that, rather than trying to give any sort of rebuttal or answer to my questions. If you want to look at some other things that are going on with Christians here, is Christian Mingle was sued for not including LGBT community in their website, a men seeking men section. Of course they don't include that. It's a Christian dating website, so they were sued for that. There's plenty more examples of persecution for Christians. And there's many YouTube channels that dedicate their channel to pointing things like that out. You said I needed to give examples of mass media or the entertainment industry being completely anti-Christian. Well, once again, there are plenty of channels for that as well that devote their whole channel to that. I have a video up about that. I think it's about 15 minutes long of examples. It's clear to me that you have not looked very far into these ideas. Honestly, I'm surprised you have the following that you do with your channel. You don't seem to know much on this subject. I'm not trying to insult you. I'm just saying you act like you've never heard of this before. This is a pretty common topic. Even a lot of atheists will admit to this. So that's surprising. All right, moving on. Atheists, the only people dedicated to fighting what they swear doesn't exist. Richard Dawkins, right? He says, we don't need evidence for evolution. We know it to be true.
First of all, citation needed. I can't find that quote anywhere.
BionicDance, you said,
if religious people could share and play nicely with the other kids, I wouldn't care what paranormal beliefs they have.
Well, it's kind of ironic considering atheists lead the world statistically in school shootings. And one of the main points a lot of atheists like to make against theists is what they say, well, what about the Crusades? And what about all these terrible events of genocide even? And of course, I'd never try to take away from that. That is terrible. That's absolutely horrible. But I could easily turn right around and point out all kinds of atheistic genocide attacks, the current state of the world, Stalin. Some say Hitler, but Hitler also posed some polytheistic kind of views. But the real crime against atheists, I would say, is eugenics. And the whole, I mean, eugenics started the Nazi movement. Eugenics was to breed human beings. And that's disgusting. That's the most sick idea I think anybody could even come up with. And that did start the Nazi movement. Maybe not physically, directly, but yeah, that idea is what the Nazis adopted and started using. So yeah, you could use Hitler as a good example here, and there's plenty more, but there's no need to get into that because that argument is mute, in my opinion. Either way, you can't use that against theists. I can't really use that against atheists. But I will point out the school shooting thing against the atheists because this just shows us that atheists tend to be troubled, right? And so that's why it feels like theists are so, you use the word jamming it down your throat. I think that's what you said, anyways. I don't want to misrepresent what you said, but I hear a lot of atheists saying that. Well, why are you trying to jam it down my throat? Well, God forbid that I try to, bring some peace into your life and happiness and joy. The peace that passes understanding is real. I experience it most days. Obviously, I still have bad days, but the peace that passes understanding, whenever I look to God, I can experience that whenever I want, and whenever I am willing to reach out to God. And it shows in statistics that atheists do not have the peace that passes understanding, and at a general level, or I would say at all. But the statistics at least show at a general level, and that's not only for school shootings, but atheists also lead the world in medication intake. Atheists also lead the world in depression rates. Atheists also lead the world in suicide rates. I mean, guys, we're not trying to attack you. We're not trying to jam this down your throat. We're trying to give you this joy, this peace that is only given by the Holy Spirit. And that's why we're so passionate about sharing our message. It's not to insult and say, I know more than you, and blah, 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 blah. Yeah, some theists are arrogant, but that's just people. Some people are arrogant, and they happen to be theists. And a lot of atheists are arrogant, demonstrated on my comment section if you need an example. But guys, we're not here to say I'm right, you're wrong. We're here to try to allow you to experience what we experience on a daily basis. And that can only be experienced by or through a relationship with God, who is Jesus Christ. And that's the only way you're going to experience true peace, true happiness, true joy. Happiness doesn't even really explain it fully. The word joy is better. All right, moving on here though. You said I have blind faith. In fact, your comment was, "Yeah, you do. It's called faith, buddy." Well, I I defined in my video what the Bible says faith is. It's defined as the evidence of things unseen. You said seen as evidence. Well, that's just simply not true, and that's kind of silly. And I know you didn't mean see with your eyes, but there's plenty of things that exist that we really don't see, regardless of with our eyes or not. For instance, gravity. There's no seeing gravity. We don't even know what it is. We have no idea what gravity is. Does gravity exist though? Yeah. Of course. So, at this point, I kind of wanted to give you a little background about me because, if I'm not mistaken, you said something about me being stuck in a little box of Christianity. It's actually not true at all. at all. I was not a Christian as of about year and a half, 2 years ago. I've studied many other religions and philosophies and other ideas. I came to the realization that materialism is just simply silly. It's impossible. Everything has a cause. That's the law of causality. That's a scientific law. Everything has a cause, no matter what it is. Whether it's this pen sitting in front of me, or my cell phone, or this piece of paper here. Everything has a cause outside of that item. And the universe is no different. So the idea of materialism is just simply bogus. It's not possible. It's kind of silly to think that the universe could create itself, or somehow be forever existing or eternal or something like that. That just it doesn't make any actual sense in the universe that we live in, governed by the laws that we're governed by. And so that led me to believe that there has to be something outside of this universe. And so I started looking for it. And like I said, I've studied many religions, many philosophies. I did the whole third eye meditation yoga idea for a while. I found out that that's actually satanic garbage, Babylonian mysticism. And the more I studied, the more I realized that everything is actually connected, and everything goes full circle right back to Christianity. Every time. Every time. If you study it out long enough, it'll go full circle right back to Christianity. And so Christianity is the only thing that actually made any sense. And whether you study that out all the way to that, and you find out that things go first full circle back to Christianity, Christianity is the only thing that makes sense anyways. It's the only thing that holds you accountable for your actions. Obviously we all have flaws, and we all have problems, we all sin. And Christianity is the only thing that holds you accountable for that. It's the only thing that offers an answer or an explanation to that. Other religions don't do that, and so it's simply the only thing that makes sense. You say there's no evidence for it. Well, I have over 4 hours of evidence up on my page. That's what my whole YouTube channel is about. So it's clear you weren't willing to go check out my other videos, just like most of the people in the comments section were not willing to do either. And as far as that goes, you can talk to James Tour, one of the most prominent scientists in the world. He was listed one of the top 10 influential scientists in the world. He has amazing credentials. Well, you'd have to talk to him and tell him there's no evidence. Or Frank, and he was one of the top 10 cited scientists in scientific papers. That means he was cited so many times. He's one of the top 10 cited scientists in scientific papers. He's a creationist as well. He's a Christian, so you're going to have to talk to him about that evidence as well. Actually, I'm going to make another point using him as well. A lot of people said in the comments section, well, where is your degree? What are your credentials? Blah, 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 blah. I don't have to have credentials or a PhD or anything in order to do research and make a decision based on my research. I'll stick to what the most prominent scientists in the world are saying. And that's okay with me. I'll stick to the most cited scientists in the world and what they have to say about things. But as far as evidence, yes, we do have scientific evidence. We have historical evidence. We have geographic evidence. We have an insane amount of evidence. Like I said, I have 4 hours worth up on my channel here. And so the point of my video and the questions that I asked, I basically said, let's see what your guys' evidence is for your religion of atheism and materialism. And I was unanswered. I was completely unanswered. And I mean, the multiple hundreds of comments that I got on my video didn't answer that either. According to Jim Tor, evolution by mutation simply does not happen. Mutation is deleterious. It's not beneficial, and it does not add information to a genetic code for sure. And so according to Jim Tor, he says he sits down with Nobel Prize winners and other prominent scientists, and he says, "So what's going on with this evolution thing? Do you guys understand this?" And they say, "No." And in fact, he says biochemists are looking for some sort of new mechanism for evolution, because it turns out mutation does not do what they thought it originally did. And so uh, that's completely throwing out the theory of evolution by mutation. And so they're looking for a new mechanism for it, because they'll never actually just give up their little religion of evolution here. But and by the way, I thought it would be kind of obvious what I was talking about when I said evolution, but apparently I'm not being specific enough, because obviously evolution happens on different levels of things. I'm talking about. Oh, and also you said evolution doesn't mean we're getting better and better. Evolution is a change. Well, what talking about is I'm talking about linear evolution from bacteria to human. You know, minute to advanced progression. That's what I'm speaking of here. I find it funny that a lot of people, including prominent scientists, I've heard a lot of prominent scientists, including Richard Dawkins, suggesting this, and I know it wasn't, he was asked about it when he answered this, but Bill Nye, the science guy, also said this, and a couple other prominent atheists, excuse me, and also, or a couple of people that commented on my video, this idea is actually growing, is the suggestion that aliens could have seeded life on Earth. I find that hilarious, because it's absolutely absurd that you're completely willing to accept the idea that aliens could have seeded life on this planet. In fact, one of the guys that commented on my video said perhaps it was aliens from another dimension. So hang on, what is what what's the difference between that and the idea of God? I mean, really, think about it. An extra dimensional being could have seeded life on Earth. Yeah, that's what we've been saying all along. We've been calling him God. I find that hilarious. It's absolutely insane. Excuse me. Can't stop coughing. Like I said, I'm sick. But the reason so many scientists and so many atheists and evolutionists are so willing to throw that idea out about the alien seeding life is because abiogenesis is impossible. It's impossible physically, and it's been proven impossible. Never ever heard a reasonable explanation other than basically magic. That's obviously ridiculous.
A Christian saying that magic is ridiculous is like a Star Trek fan claiming that televisions don't exist.
Toolbox?
Yes,
Why do your ears look like that?
all Vulcans have similarly shaped ears.
Why?
It is a result of many millennia of evolution.
Should it make you hear better?
No,
BionicDance, you listed something where researchers synthesize the basic ingredients of RNA, is what they said. First of all, RNA is worthless by itself. It's worthless. You need the whole cell in order to make anything happen. You need RNA is folded into proteins, and you need proteins in order to make ribosomes, which fold the RNA into other proteins. You need the full cell in order to get anything else. You need the whole cell. People will argue, well, viruses are able to thrive just off of RNA. First of all, the idea that we all came from viruses is pretty silly in itself. But even if so, I gave you it all. Even if I said, "Yep, they created life in the lab," how do you not realize that this proves intelligent design? How do you not realize that? The most intelligent men in the world, right? A bunch of PhD scientists getting together and using external sources, chemicals, and creating a perfect test tube environment in order to create life. Yeah, that proves intelligent design. It proves that it takes something to set it into motion, and I'll prove it to you using the very article that you cited. Okay, this is the same article. It's entitled "Life's First Spark Recreated in the Laboratory." All right, this first quote, which is from a guy, a chemist named John Sutherland. This first quote is how atheists like to imagine that this happened. Okay. He says, "It's like molecular choreography, where the molecules choreograph their own behavior." That's what this guy, John Sutherland, said, right? And that is how you guys imagine it happening. You know, that these molecules are just choreographing their own behavior. But then you scroll down a little bit, and you get the truth out of the same guy. You get the truth of what actually happened in this laboratory experiment. He says, by changing the way we mix the ingredients together. Hold on, stop right there. I thought it was molecular choreography where the molecules choreograph their own behavior. That's weird. I do one scroll down and I see a quote by the same guy saying that he is changing the way he mixes ingredients together. Guys, this proves it takes intelligence to make life. How do you not see this? I don't understand. I truly do not understand how you don't get this. But moving on from abiogenesis, because we talked about that a lot in the comments section. No, by the way, nobody was able to give an explanation that was reasonable. A couple people tried. This guy Incognito. I know there's a 95% chance you're listening to this, because you were all over the comments in the other video. He tried to give an explanation, but he was debunked by Raw Matt or Matt Man. By the way, shout out to Matt Man. He's a really awesome guy. Anyways. Oh, and another point before I move on from abiogenesis. BionicDance, you said reasonable by... I can't find your quote. I have a lot of notes here. But you basically said reasonable by what standard?
And that's the problem here. Reasonable by what standard?
When I said give a reasonable explanation for how abiogenesis could have happened, you said reasonable by what standard? Reasonable by the standard that it does not completely contradict what we know about science, what we already know about science. For instance, you need proteins to make proteins. For instance, you can't get cytosine by natural processes, etc. Some other things that I brought up in the second video I put out, questions to atheists. So let's see, moving on though. No one that I saw at least even attempted to explain the nebular hypothesis. In fact, I don't even think that was in your response video to me at all. Just edit that part out because, you guys don't really know what to say about that one because there's absolutely so many problems with the nebular hypothesis and the formation of planets and stars and everything else. The Big Bang. None of it makes any sense whatsoever. For instance, if the Big Bang were true, the material would be evenly distributed. You wouldn't have stars that are made out of certain elements and then planets that are made out of other elements. You wouldn't have clusters of stars and then big open gaps of nothingness. It just simply doesn't make sense. You wouldn't see the conservation of angular momentum compromised. You wouldn't have planets tilted on their sides. You wouldn't have planets rotating the wrong way. I mean, none of this makes any sense according to the Big Bang whatsoever. The big hero in the materialist mind is meteors. Literally, almost every single time they have a problem explaining formation of stars and planets and things, they say, "Oh, a meteor must have hit that and knocked it out of orbit or knocked it onto its side." And none of these things actually have any sort of evidence of a meteor actually hitting it. They made something up in order to fix a problem, just like they do with comets. Young comets or small comets could not last more than 10,000 years. And so in order to fix that, to make it line up with their old Earth, they said, well, there must be some sort of Oort cloud out there that's creating comets. Well, there's no evidence of that whatsoever. There's no reason to even think that would happen at all. You just made that up. You completely made that up to try to fix a problem with your theory. The atheists, the evolutionists, and the materialists do this all the time. All the time. So, but anyways, nobody seems to want to talk about that because there's just too many problems. So we'll move on. You said theists are trapped in a box, and I would say no, not at all. I would say that I am desperately trying to get you out of your box of materialism. You're missing out. It's like Trey Smith said. He said this world is couched in a much larger spiritual and dimensional reality. I'm gonna repeat that. This world is couched. I like that word, couched, that he used. I think it's perfect. In a much larger spiritual and dimensional reality. And you guys only believe in the material world. I don't know what your beliefs are on other dimensions or spirits or anything like that. I'm not saying all atheists are materialists, but you seem to give that impression in your response video, BionicDance, and I know that a lot of the people that commented on my video were materialists. So you guys are missing out. You guys are in the box. Trust me. Trust me. There's a lot more than you might think out there. I guess I'll just give a couple more Bible references here that says that blind faith is not the case. 1 Thessalonians 5:21 says to test all things and hold firmly to that which is good. Like I said, Hebrews 11:1 says faith is the evidence of the unseen. Another reference I could give is 1 Peter 3:15. It says, "But in your hearts revere Christ as Lord. Always be prepared to give an answer to everyone who asks you, to give the reason for the hope that you have. But do this with gentleness and respect." And that's what I've been trying to do here, BionicDance. I'm trying to give you the answers to your questions and why I have the hope that I have in my heart and in my mind. I'm trying to explain to you that I do not have blind faith. The Bible does not ask you to have blind faith. The Bible, time and time again, says to test all things. Get evidence. There's another verse. I believe it's in Acts, but I can't think of the reference offhand, where Paul is talking to the people and he's given some sort of message. He's preaching, and he says, and this isn't a direct quote, obviously, but he says, "Don't take my word for it." He says, "Go in the scriptures and dig around and do your own research and make sure what I'm saying is true." So, don't even take my word for it. Go through and dig through the scriptures. Make sure what I'm saying is right. It's just completely ridiculous when atheists give this, blind faith argument. That's just silly. And BionicDance, I truly am, in 1 Peter 3:15, it says to do this with gentleness and respect. I truly am trying to do this with gentleness and respect. I really am. Even though, like I said at the beginning, you said you're trying to make little cracks calling me Sparky and, all these other things as if we're like getting ready for a fist fight or something. And you said you don't get many responses to your videos to theists. And to be honest with you, I suspect that that is because of your attitude. I truly do. And I'm not even, once again, I'm not trying to be mean or anything else. I really am trying to be respectful and gentle here. But I truly do believe that's because of your attitude. You really turned me off to the idea of responding to you. In fact, I almost didn't respond to you because based on what I saw from your attitude in the comments section, I said, I knew what your video was going to be, and I explained to you that I knew what your video was going to be, and then I watched it, and I was right, and it just really turned me off. The only reason I'm giving this response, and I said this in the comments section as well, is for God's sake. I'm not doing this for my sake or for your sake at this point. I would have liked to had a civil conversation about science and philosophy. That's what I do. That's what I do in my spare time. But with you, no, I truly did not want to because of your attitude toward theists. And so I suspect that's why you don't get many responses to your videos. Oh, but to finish that thought, yeah, I didn't want it to look as though I was somehow intimidated or running away either. So that's why I am here giving a response, for God's sake. Hopefully you even watch this whole thing. Another thing, for those of you that are saying atheism isn't related to evolution, I mean, come on. Let's be realistic here. I mean, evolution is the only theory that I'm aware of that makes any type of sense for an atheistic kind of worldview. So without evolution, without abiogenesis, what does the atheist really have to believe? I mean, you have to believe something about our origins. I mean, a lot of people just don't think about it at all, which I think is silly. I mean, you do have to believe something, some sort of origin for things. So yeah, obviously atheism is related to evolution, and also so many people said abiogenesis isn't related to evolution. I realize that they're not the same theory. I had a lot of people say that abiogenesis isn't evolution. I realize that, even though chemists call it the evolution of the original cell or is something along those lines. But I realize that abiogenesis is not evolution itself, but obviously that is the origin to the evolutionary standpoint or the materialist standpoint. I mean, come on, let's not nitpick terms here. I mean, I could go on another 10 minutes rant about how information itself, the genetic information specifically, is evidence for God, but I believe I covered that in my second Questions to Atheist video. So I'm going to go ahead and just pretty much end it on this note. Another quote from Richard Dawkins, and I realize he's not an atheist high priest, but he is a highly regarded atheist, and his main teaching, for lack of better words, is evolution. He has a massive following, and most people just accept what he says is true without doing their own research. So, there's like richarddawkins.org, or I think it was org or .com or whatever, like fan pages and everything else. So, yes, Richard Dawkins obviously is influential, so that's why I bring him up. I realize he's not a atheist high priest, but he is influential here. So, I'll just end this on another quote by him. Animals give the appearance of having been designed by a theoretically sophisticated and practically ingenious physicist or engineer. That is by Richard Dawkins. That is because animals were created. I mean, it's silly to think otherwise. Anyways, this concludes my response. I'm not sure I'll get much of a dialogue going with you. Honestly, this was not the most enjoyable experience. In fact, not even just with you, BionicDance, but your whole following. You guys were arrogant. It's not a nice, fun conversation where we can both learn and grow and educate each other through different viewpoints. It was just an aggravation. It was really a gang attack on my YouTube channel. I have hundreds of comments on my one video. And it'd be one thing
if you guys actually gave some sort of rebuttals or something, but you didn't. 90% of you just tried to attack me personally, and that's so that's so unproductive. I'm not here to try to argue as much as possible. I'm here to discuss scientific and philosophical ideas. I have plenty of examples that I took screenshots of on my phone that I might put in this video. I might not. I don't know. It might just be a waste of my time. Where people were just attacking me. And I said, would you like to refute something? You're welcome to try, but I know that you can't. So why are you making this comment? And there was plenty of examples. Plenty. Here's another one where I said, any rebuttals are just insulting like the rest. No response. Because there is no rebuttal to what I was saying. In fact, the only response I got to when I said, any rebuttals are just insulting, the only one that I saw anybody responded to said, you made nothing. You first have to disprove all science. Start easy. Disprove 1 + 1 = 2.
I'm praying that the Lord speaks through this video and really convicts them and makes their hearts to be softened toward the idea and really be honest with themselves.
For all those who appreciate the work that we're doing here on Standing for Truth, please hit that subscribe button because we are just getting started.